WHO official said, quote, "This is a spectacular success story that shows the world that Ebola can be contained." So what lessons can the U.S. learn from Nigeria's victory? We're going to find out as President Obama's new Ebola Czar, Ron Klain, starts work this week. For more on just what tasks and responsibilities come with this position of Ebola Czar, we're joined by Michael Brown. He is a former emergency official himself. He headed FEMA under the Bush administration. And Michael, what is the work that is laid out for Ron Klain?
Well, I think when it comes to crisis management, the first thing he's going to have to do is lay out what is his authority, because when you think about this, you have NIH, you have the CDC, and then you have Health and Human Services, who has an assistant secretary whose job is to respond to biological crises in the country. You have the Secretary of Health and Human Services. So he's going to have to establish his turf, so to speak. I always ask the question, in crisis management, you always want to know who's in charge, who's the decision maker. And I think in this situation, it's really unclear. Is he representing the president just for communications, or is he there to make decisions? Nobody knows yet, and I think someone needs to establish that.
Well, was it a mistake that he not be reporting directly to the president? Instead, he's reporting, I believe, to Susan Rice and others?
I think that makes it even more convoluted, because think about the statutory authorities. I mean, Dr. Fauci and Dr. Frieden have specific statutory authorities, and they report to the Secretary of Health and Human Services, who also has an assistant secretary who is supposed to be doing these things. So it really raises the question of what authority does this so-called czar have, and what can he really do and not do? And I have to tell you, my concern is, anytime you're in the midst of a crisis and you suddenly throw on an additional layer of bureaucracy, this is just how D.C. works, it becomes even more confused. And the president has to step up and say, this is what he's going to be doing. This is his job description, so to speak.
Well, this is exactly what it sounds like Al Hunt was saying as well. You know, he wrote a Bloomberg View column over the weekend, Michael, and I just want to read part of what he said because he thinks Ron Klain is the wrong choice here. He said, quote, "What Obama should have sought is a commanding figure who can cut through internal politics and bureaucracies, manage tens of thousands of people, and counter political irresponsibility. Who better fits that role, David Petraeus or Ron Klain?" So he felt that Obama should have appointed General David Petraeus. What do you think of that?
I find that fascinating, but I'll tell you, here's why I find it fascinating. And I know General Petraeus, and he's a great guy, and he knows how to do all of those things. The question then would be, would people still be raising the issue? Because I don't think you necessarily have to be a medical doctor. If you're going to organize things, you have to be a management person. So that question would go away. But even if it was General Petraeus, you still have the question of what authority does he have? Is he speaking on behalf of the president, and does the president somehow imbue him with this authority? So whether it's David Petraeus or General Honore or anybody, the question is, who is the person and what can he do and what's he supposed to be doing? Nobody knows the answers to those questions yet.
Well, aside from the questions on authority around this Ebola Czar, Michael, I mean, what about, though, our own emergency procedures? I mean, only now are we getting any clues from the CDC and the NIH and others that maybe they need to revamp their protocols here in dealing with Ebola. I mean, whose head should roll on this?
Well, Congress really needs to think about this. In 2003 or 4, I forget which year, Congress passed BioShield, and they put a ton of money into getting the country ready to prepare for bio attacks, bio threats. They created this assistant secretary whose job is to help respond and coordinate all of this. Congress needs to ask, what have you done with all of that money? What's the job of this assistant secretary? What have we accomplished? Who's making the rules? I mean, the sad part of this is it has raised the issue of all this money we have spent to prepare for bio attacks or bio crises. Has it been spent effectively or not?
And finally, Michael, I mean, just gaining from your own expertise, I mean, what does it take for this country to become Ebola free? What does that mean exactly?
Well, I think in terms of what I see going on right now is first and foremost a travel ban. Look, if the United Kingdom has done it, France has done it, even other countries within western parts of Africa have restricted the flow of travel between and among their countries. So they know that first and foremost that's what you have to do. I think if we do that and we make sure that we're spending money on bio research on the right things, then we'll be on the right track. But until then, we're all just kind of flapping around, I'm afraid.